One of the most famous and memed episodes of Rick and Morty is Pickle Rick, where Rick, turns himself into a pickle. It's pretty straightforward. And I know having this episode as my favorite isn't original at all. I recognize that every wannabe Rick and Morty fanboy who thinks they become better at calculus by sheer proximity to Adult Swim also considers it their favorite. But it is my favorite episode, and probably for a reason that others might not consider. As someone whose degree is in psychology and whose profession is in therapy, I was really impressed with the show's take on the family therapy session, especially when Rick joins in. This, of course, was the climax of the episode, what everything else had been leading to, and I think it hinges on manipulating audience expectation, a topic I covered in my BoJack Horseman episode. Now, if there's one thing that Pickle Rick definitely has polarized its viewers on, it is how they think both about the episode and how the character should have played out. While the whole episode could be used as an example, I will stick to the therapy session, the most telling and controversial scene. With Rick now in a situation he clearly doesn't want to be in, i.e. wasting his time with Dr. Wong, the audience has been trained to expect that Rick will either completely change the circumstances to be in his liking or control, or completely crush Dr. Wong with his superior intellect. Or heck, maybe both. In every episode, and with every instance of Rick being placed in a situation that he finds suboptimal, this is pretty much the outcome. In fact, this is literally stated by Rick during the session when he says,
"Because I invent, transform, create, and destroy for a living, and when I don't like something about the world, I change it."
If anything, the writers are priming us by having this informational dialogue present in the scene. They want us to expect this thing to happen. Except the exact opposite happens. The audience's expectation is completely subverted. At the end of the day, Dr. Wong gets the last word and reduces Rick down to his most basic psychological parts. And this is jarring for us, the audience. Not only has Rick completely failed to take control of a situation, the most intelligent being in a show with multiverses was bested by a strip mall therapist whose main clients consume feces. And I think this plays to the theme of the episode. We see Rick transform himself into a pickle because he doesn't want to go to therapy. He controlled that situation. We see him take command of roaches by tonguing their brains and killing rats to make them meaty mecha suits. He controlled those situations. We see him terrorize and obliterate a highly weaponized Russian facility as a vegetable. He controlled that situation. He controlled all of these incredibly absurd, difficult, nigh impossible situations. Yet, in the end, the situation he could not turn to his favor was a therapy session with an average woman. And the reason he could not manage to shift the situation to his liking was because his opposition was not really Dr. Wong. It was himself. The definition of good therapy is to force a person to realize, combat, and accept themselves. Most viewers might consider Dr. Wong to be the opposition in the situation, but she isn't. It's Rick. And the reason why is because Rick's psyche is being evoked by the therapy. And if there is one thing Rick has never been able to exert control over, it is Rick. Whether it comes in the form of his alcoholism, his constant danger seeking, his suicidality, or literally not being able to control the Council of Ricks, a multitude of his own being, Rick has been powerless in this series to successfully control himself. Dr. Wong gained the upper hand when she states this very thing.
And I think it's because the only truly unapproachable concept for you is that it's your mind within your control.
Rick quite literally put himself in a pickle to have an excuse to avoid this therapy session because deep down, he probably knew what was going to happen. This therapy scene is jarring and polarizing because of massive subversion of expectation. Some fans cry out of character actions, and others say heavy-handed character building and storytelling. I'm not going to argue with the validity of those opinions. What I will say is that Rick is laid bare and forced to confront himself in the situation. He's forced to submit to a scenario created by someone else. He can't open up a wormhole to escape because on the other side of the wormhole will still be him. This powerlessness in the face of someone else, it was new for both Rick and the fanbase. It was a departure from the comfortable formula that the show had laid out, and such discomfort demands reaction and reflection, some of which will be negative. If anything, this analysis of Rick by Dr. Wong forces both Rick and the audience to self-reflect, and this is not always easily handled, but it is the point of therapy.